First, as you can see, this stream is about we're not impressed. We're not impressed with what James Gunn is bringing out. I'm just not impressed. I'm sure you're not impressed if you're watching this stream. And obviously, I'm also not impressed with what the U.S. has done in terms of Donald Trump talking about trying to end a war, bring a ceasefire through violence, to unprovoked attacks against Iran. And I'm also not impressed with Netanyahu and all the excuses they're making while they are still continuing and completing a genocide and ethnic cleansing and a imposed displacement of the Palestinian people. So I'm really not impressed. You're currently conducting a genocide, and you want to talk about you're the victim, and if anybody's violating a ceasefire agreement. So we're going to go into that in some detail. This is all about Palestine, y'all. That's why this whole thing is going down. It's going down because of Palestine. And with respect to DC, this is all going down in DC because of the the refusal by these people who have supposedly have the money and the power, supposedly are in charge of DC, not listening to the populace, most of the people, what they're asking for. What are we asking for, ladies and gentlemen? Tell them, please. Restore the Snyderverse. And, you know, they can call us a minority. They can call us a cult. They can call us all kinds of names. Snyder Bros and all that. This still stands. And until they fulfill this mandate, you're going to get the turnout that you're getting for every single DC film. You're going to get the turnout that you're going to get. Mark the safe from Toby Emmerich today. No, that might be true, but Toby's gone, but the system is still there. It doesn't matter who they put in charge. There's always going to be difficulty for that person to satisfy what it is that the DC audience wants, because there's a system in place in Warner Brothers, as there's a system in place in Israel. And we'll talk about that in some degree. There's a system in place for American policy, and this is why everything is going the way it's going. They're trying to get a dystopian world in which there's a one world order, and complicit with this is almost all the countries of the world, the United Nations. That includes the minority countries, which are the European countries, Western Europe, what we call the West, America, Israel, and some complicit Arab countries as well. Yes, we're going to ignore James Gunn's Superman movie. As I said before, I am not impressed with that movie in any way, shape, or form. And I do believe the Snyderverse should be restored. This is some artwork by, believe it or not, a fan. Look at this thing. This thing is just so freaking crazy. I know Superman's in the blue suit, but still, oh my God, the detailing. This is ridiculous art, ladies and gentlemen. And notice they're all inside of Darkseid's head. That's Darkseid's skull. You're watching it there. I saw this and I was highly impressed with it. And I've shared it with you guys on X, also known as Twitter. I prefer to say Twitter. Tell them for me, please. Reasons why I'm broke. Shout out to him on X, and also he's on Instagram, and he's also on Vero. Shout out to my brother. Got the Darkseid t-shirt on. Got the symbol for reasons why I'm broke. Then just grinding hard. And once again, from reasons I am broke, the demand is out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just Snyder fans, for those of you who don't know. When we talk about the DC audience, we're talking about Batman fans. We're talking about DC fans that read comics. We're talking about the general audience that likes that kind of tone of superhero movie. We're talking about Snyder fans, obviously. We're also talking about Christopher Nolan fans. We're also talking about fans who will go to the cinema to see, you know, more adult drama, mature content. So we're talking about people who like Joker, for example, 2019. Even some fans like The Batman. All those people make up Restore the Snyderverse. Fans who liked Constantine, fans who liked, the Dark Knight trilogy, who like, more serious content in DC. Those are your audience. And no matter how much your executives shill and try and push narratives to enforce the CIA Mossad agenda in Hollywood, to push, Arabs are evil, Jews are good, that kind of storyline, you're really not going to do anything. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, an old guy, a baby boomer, and I was explaining to him that, he's talking about Iran and Iran and Iran, and they're Muslim and they're Arabs. And I'm like, Iranians are not Arabs, my friend. Iranians, don't ever say that to an Iranian. That's an insult to them. They're Persians. And if you know anything about the Persian Empire, that's thousands and thousands of years old, the fact that it actually was an empire, it ruled the world for a while. Out of Xerxes and Xerxes. I mean, if you don't know this shit, you're going to start saying things and people will just laugh at you, you know? This is just tremendous. This is Mira extracting liquid out of Steppenwolf, pulling his blood out of him and shit. That's just so crazy. Again, do I need to emphasize this much more? Warner Brothers, to survive, DC, to be taken seriously on the map as something that provides entertainment people can go see. You need to restore the Snyderverse. And that's just that. And you have to bring back Zack Snyder. And Zack Snyder's not coming back for 30%. No, he's coming back for everything. Everything. There will be no James Gunn in the picture. He's coming back for everything. We want David Ayer's Suicide Cut. We want Ben Affleck's Batman. We want Justice League 2 and 3. Oh, I got more. We want. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. His brother said restore the Snyderverse. I mean, come on, man. New DC fans, I told you the studio would fail. How will you retrieve Justice League 2? Snyder Cut fans, we're going to go back to the old ways. Ready to hashtags. What makes you think they will restore the Snyderverse? Just a feeling. I don't know. Somebody explain this to me. How do you pass this for the cheap thrills and the comedy and the hee hee ha ha and the absolute horse shit that we're getting come July? How do you do that? This is a movie that's universally loved, liked. Yeah, it's a 4-hour it's a 4-hour epic. It's a 4-hour titan. Nobody's saying no. But when you're building story like this, you gotta have it like that, man. Oh, I'm not gonna let go of Ray Fisher being Cyborg again and seeing him on the big screen with his own solo film. I'm looking forward to that, as well as Ben Affleck's solo film. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we gave up this Superman. Warner Brothers made the choice to give up this Superman for this Superman, ladies and gentlemen. Let's digest that somehow, some way. Can we do that? I mean, how do you give up that Superman we just saw? How do you give that up for this? For this? No, seriously, now, guys, seriously, now, seriously. How do you give up that Superman? Just how do you do that for this Superman? I mean, come on now. Somebody help me here. Does anybody have an answer to that question? You know, how do you do that? How do you do that? You know? I mean, somebody, am I right or am I right? Am I right or am I right? Like, help me out here. You know what I'm saying? How do you go from Henry Cavill to this? Somebody help me here, please. Please, somebody help me. I don't think there's anything I've seen in that movie, in the previews of that movie, that has gotten me not repulsed. James Gunn cites Zack Snyder as a huge influence in the Superman movie. Please don't mention Zack Snyder, James Gunn. Have nothing to do with Zack Snyder, please. I think all previous DC media influenced me. I think that obviously the original Donald movie influenced me. Zack Snyder did some excellent stuff. So there's lots of ways that influence. Listen, man, James Gunn, distance yourself from Zack Snyder. Please do not. I don't want to hear anything about Zack Snyder when this movie flops. I don't want to hear anything about him. Okay, and nothing. I don't want to hear it. Okay, and I don't want to hear it from all those Gunns out there. I really don't. I really don't. This is a toy. This is Henry Cavill Superman as a toy. And this is a custom-made toy of James Gunn come on, man. What are we doing? Parodies? What are we doing? No, seriously, what are we doing? New Superman flying footage looks goofy. You don't say, bruh. You don't say. And that guy, I think he doesn't even like he doesn't even like Snyder's movies. I mean, man. Okay. Look at this. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen.
All the fights. So in this rooftop fight, we have ourselves hooked up to these wires. Under the suit, we have this harness that's super tight, and we get strapped in, right, to these winches, and they make us fly or crash. And for example, in this fight scene, Batman does this kick to Superman, sends him launch across the rooftop into this awning rooftop skylight.
3, 2, 1, go!
Thank goodness for Albert, but otherwise I'd have a bit of a headache. Later, this roof piece here will break through. All the fight sequences and stunt sequences, they're a lot of fun to do. They really are. I spent 6 months doing all kinds of training anyway, and I got a chance to run through especially this sequence with the stunt guys over and over again. I've been very fortunate to have Albert do a lot of the really tricky wire stuff for me, which can cause some genuine injuries.
Right here we have Henry. Batman just threw him over the balcony. He just landed on these radiators. Batman ties up his ankles, and he's going to drag him, and he's going to smash him all the way across these pillars. And then land there. It'll be fun.
The stunt crew as a whole, they're fantastic guys to work with, and they know that I'm not a pro stuntman, and so I get a bit of leeway. There's a lot of understanding here. It's a lot of fun. Am I going to get with this thing, anyone? When it came to the big sink hit, fortunately, these are actually hitting me with a real sink, or even a breakaway sink. We've got a wonderful CGI CGI team with DJ, and he has this large foam piece, which essentially he just lifts up and smacks me on the head with. It's that simple. It's like being hit with a nerve bat, like a super soft one. In post-production, you see an actual sink breaking in Ben's hands as he lifts it up to hit me.
Superman is an alien. He comes from another planet. He's not an Earthling. And so the fact that he's not one of us really, no matter what he does, there could always be a critic that says that's unnatural to have some guy fly out of the sky and snatch you. So it's an interesting world for Superman to navigate because it's a fresh world for Superman in that respect.
It's very difficult to write a Superman story. There's a deep complexity to the nature of Superman being a godlike being with godlike powers. It's about keeping the complexity and truth of the character without ruining anything else.
Be their hero, Clark. Be anything they need you to be, or be none of it. You don't know this worthless thing.
Now that's
For a scene like this, it takes months and months of stunt training just to get the actual movement of all the fights. So in this rooftop fight, we have ourselves hooked up to these wires. Under the suit, we have this harness that's super tight.
okay. I'm gonna keep this going, and that's the thing. A lot of thought was put into, the early Snyderverse movies, and that's why, you will find a lot of us really, really enjoying those movies because it's not some superficial crap. So John Baker said, I just showed this to my daughter, and she said the new Superman looks like an ugly child. A 363 million movie cannot outdo CW. I mean, the CW Superman looks so much better. I'm not gonna lie. So because John Baker said that, a Gunt decided to attack him. He said, I'm sorry, this is so effing weird, man. Obsessively hating a borderline kids movie so severely you're making up stories about your daughter. And John Baker said, dude, grow up. She's 12. She thought he looked dumb compared to Tyler. Sorry to hurt your little feelings. Like I said, not impressed. That's why I've not been talking about this stuff. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Look at this. Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder's Superman deserves much respect, 100%. It's Lois Lane. She's the key. She was my world, and you took her from me. I'm not putting the audio to it, but this is one of the... It's so cool. This is so freaking cool, man. I'm just trying to get this part out the way before I deal with other things, okay? All right. Phyllis said, when I was 14 from Brazil, and the movie cut to black, and then this scene, it changed my life forever. Yeah, this was the nightmare sequence, which was really cool. Oh my God. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Diaper Man. Look up. This shit is crazy. It's crazy, bro. It's just fucking crazy. I just don't want to talk about it. It's just it's so depressing. My bro Crow J said, bro, yo, that first one, is that for real, an official scene? Like they digitally made his mouth like Animaniacs reaction or something. Oh, no way. Nah. All right, man. Let's get to it. So I'm obviously not impressed with what James Gunn is bringing to the table. He's bringing nothing really good. If anything, it's worse than we've seen before. It's worse than we've seen before, ladies and gentlemen. All right, this is President Trump on Israel and Iran. Here we go.
Iran either, but
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
yeah, I do. They violated, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Do you have to respond to Iran on this?
Supreme Master TV Max. Maximize nearly limitless blessings everywhere.
Well, Ilhan Omar had a lot to say about what he said. And you know what? I kind of believe her because Trump has no idea what he's getting himself into. And I know he was doing a token bombing, but Iran's definitely going to get nuclear weapons now. So we moved from trying to calm down, de-escalate the situation. So this situation is going to go into the next level. Ilhan Omar says, no, Mr. President, you don't know what you're doing. And while you're playing confused referee, Netanyahu is running circles around you with our tax dollars. Americans are watching this all unfold, realizing you're in over your head, and we're paying it in. Okay, sorry about that interruption. I moved outside of range, and that happened. But I was saying that Ilhan Omar, obviously, it's more than that. The first thing you need to understand is that this is U.S. policy. They do want to get at Iran. But clearly they've lost. The reason why Donald Trump is asking for a ceasefire and why he's trying to get Israel to ceasefire is because he knows they don't have enough munitions to give to Israel. Israel's running out of munitions and they're running out of defense. And they're counting on America to attack Iran. And Donald Trump, in the strike that he did against Iran, he knows he can't damage their infrastructure when it comes to their nuclear program, right? The nuclear program that Iran had was a civilian nuclear program. Yes, they had 60% enrichment, but they were willing to go right back down to 3%. They were negotiating because Iran really doesn't care for nuclear weapons. They pretty much have a missile arsenal that's ridiculous. Okay. And so you got to understand when Donald Trump bombed Iran, that was an act of war. And that's why Iran started bombing Qatar. It started bombing Iraq. Iraq suffered tremendously. It also bombed. I believe, an area in Syria. They bombed, and they're still bombing Israel. You know, I don't know if they're bombing Israel today. Maybe it's a ceasefire. But that bombing of Israel, and they've been damaging severe infrastructure in Israel. You know, and places in Israel. They bombed the Dimona site a number of times, and that's where Israel has their nuclear weapon program. So Iran's not playing around. And I listened to the Ayatollah this morning. I was listening in great length to him, and he had choice words to say about what is going on and why Iran may continue to bomb Israel. Why also Iran is very highly critical of Israel's actions in Palestine, what they're doing in the West Bank. He unlocked it. He also talked about what they're doing in Gaza presently, and that's a no-no. in negotiations, Iran, America did the same thing. Trump bombed Yemen, and then when Yemen struck back at the American vessels, he backed off. And here again, he struck Iran. Netanyahu praised him for supposedly destroying the nuclear weapons that are in Iran. So why the fuck should Israel be striking Iran? That's what Donald Trump is coming with. Hey, now obviously Donald Trump was not very effective in doing anything there. Iran's definitely going to go now and make nuclear weapons. They're definitely going to go that way, and I heard the Ayatollah say that as well. Not exclude that from the equation. And Iran just may strike Israel again. But I think Iran might just play it coy and wait for Israel to strike them, and then it'll just rain down missiles again on Israel. But I think that Iran shouldn't have a ceasefire because that's just helping Israel to regroup so they can launch other attacks on it. Now, I don't know who the negotiators were that negotiated with Trump, but really, this was a time for war. This was not a time for negotiation. Iran should have just kept on bombing the fuck out of Israel and just keep on bombing them because a lot of the Israelis have left Israel. And I think Iran should just keep on bombing Israel until everybody leaves Israel. The little remnants that remain there, you destroy all their infrastructure, all of their major things to keep them afloat, their economy, etc. And you bomb the shit out of them. That's what Iran should have done. I don't think they should have given in to any ceasefire agreement. And Donald Trump wants to get a ceasefire agreement because he doesn't want to be involved in long wars. And even though he hasn't done tremendous damage to Iran's nuclear programs, definitely hasn't. And now we know Iran is definitely going to go pursue nuclear weapons. They're definitely going to do that now. It means that what have you actually done? Netanyahu, the asshole, has taken a country that was peaceful, that was not trying to form nuclear weapons, and now they're going to do it as a deterrent. They don't want to be bombed. They don't want their citizens dying. Iran citizens, there are a bunch of Iranian citizens, about 200-something citizens have died. All right, in Israel, it's about, they're underestimating their counts. I don't know how many have died. They say it's somewhere between 50 and 60 people have died, mostly from the Palestinian regions of Israel. But I would say it's probably considerably more than that. But the point I'm making is that Iran shouldn't stop bombing Israel until there's a ceasefire in Palestine, until the Palestinians are not being shot when they get their food, until journalists, in other words, Iran should have a list of things that the U.S. and Israel need to do before they stop bombing Israel, because they're the avenging angel. You don't stop bombing. I don't care what you say. You don't stop bombing Israel. You got them, bomb them. Russia is still bombing Ukraine. Trump was trying to get a ceasefire, and Russia said, fuck that. Not going to reset. And it's the same thing Iran needed to do. Don't recess them. Keep them on their heels. Keep them on the iron foot. Let them try and nuke you. Let them try and do different things. Let them have to do crazy stuff. You don't give in. You don't do a ceasefire. But anyway, it seems as though they agreed to it, so they've stopped. But of course, both countries, particularly Iran, bombed the crap out of Israel in the last couple of hours before the ceasefire. They really got theirs in. You know what I'm saying? Marjorie Taylor Greene. I never thought I would be quoting Marjorie Taylor Greene, but the only nation building that should take place is the United States of America. The only one I give my absolute trust, faith, and loyalty to is God. And I'm glad to see Marjorie Taylor Greene on the same page with the, what's happening in the Middle East, at least with respect to those issues, that the United States should not get itself involved in that. What Marjorie Taylor Greene needs to understand is the U.S. policy is to get involved in those things. So Donald Trump has to go with U.S. policies, which is why I knew he was going to bomb Iran. He did not do a sustained bombing campaign. He didn't have multiple bombs go down in Iran. He just had 3 bombs drop on Iran in certain areas, and that was it. However, let me make it abundantly clear. He did absolutely nothing, And Netanyahu praising Donald Trump sounds so stupid because Netanyahu also is, as they're carrying on this campaign in Gaza, they get the cover of war to distract people from the Gaza incident, but nobody's distracted. I'm not distracted. No one is distracted. The Tennessee Holler says, hey, Marsha Blackburn. Here are some actual numbers. This is Senator Marsha Blackburn. 65% of people taken by ICE had no convictions. 93% no violent convictions. Very important statistic for what's happening within America, which is eating itself out in terms of the people who have power from the people who do not. When you target the poorest people of your country, whether they're illegal or illegal status, and let me just make it abundantly clear, in my country right now, we have a huge influx of Venezuelan refugees because of what is happening in Venezuela. And while the president of Venezuela said some really dumb shit like, oh, we'll invade Trinidad, I wish him the best of luck on that one. But while he's saying dumb shit like that, we have a lot of Venezuelan refugees in my country. And I'm going to tell you this. A lot of people say they're taking our jobs and all kinds of, just very xenophobic bullshit. And I'm on the record as saying these people are doing nothing but good for my country right now. They are the workforce that is being hired to do the jobs that the black people and the Indo community, who are black people as well, do not want to do. All right? None of you motherfuckers out there want to go in the fields and be planting fruits for Blue Waters, for example. They're brutal hours. You're in the sun all day. I know, because the Venezuelan lady comes and buys water from me. And by the way, she's buying water from me, driving business for me. The Venezuelan people are so... I cannot explain to you how patronizing they are, because they come into your country. They're willing to buy things from you. That means the economy keeps on rolling. Yes, they send back money to their family in Venezuela. Of course they're going to do that. But they drive the economy. They boost the fucking economy by doing labor where labor was not there before, by lowering the price of labor, by purchasing goods and services in the country. At no time is an immigrant who is working in your country doing your country bad. Anybody telling you that, they're assholes. Now, if they're doing crime, and there are a lot of them that are in crime, I'm not saying no. They've joined the criminal elements in the country, and yes, in Venezuela, there's a lot of crime as well. Then you just deport their ass back to Venezuela. If you're not being constructive in the country, we will deport you. That's what you just got to do. You catch these motherfuckers and you deport them out the country and say, don't come back. And they come back into the country. The next time, you got to put them in prison. That's it. It's real simple. You got a 2-strike rule. We deport you the first time. And if you manage to come back here and you want to wage crime and stuff in my country, man, I'm going to imprison your ass. I'm going to have you detained unless your country wants you back. And when they want you back, they say, we don't want them here. We don't want those motherfuckers here because they're not doing nothing positive. Listen, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not going to call no names. There was this guy, right? He was living in this house for about 12 to 15 years, okay? He'd been promised a house by an old man, okay, but verbally. The old man died. The family was fighting over the house. He was there for 15 years, but he never upkept the house. The house was breaking down. A dog died in his yard. The stench could be smelled. The neighbors were complaining about the guy. So the family said, you know what? You need to get the fuck out of this house. And the dude had to come out the house, okay? If you get borrowed time, somebody blesses you. They give you what in my country we call a bly. That is, you get a chance to stay in the country if you're being constructive, if you're being good. And maybe you get a path to residency, okay? You're constructed to the fucking country, okay? You're an asset to the country because you're providing labor to the country. You buy goods and services from the country, so you're an asset to the fucking country. You're driving the economy. An economy that would not have moved forward as fast as it's moving because with your absence. So you're an asset to the fucking country. You may not be legal. You're not legalized yet, but you're an asset. You're contributing to the country, okay? We're getting taxes from you, purchasing tax. You send some of the money back to your country, that's okay. We're cool with that. You're helping out. Not only are we as a country helping out you, but we're also internationally helping out somebody else from another country. So we're doing doubly good job. Well, reputation is good. We immigrants. If you're being constructive, why the fuck would I want you to go back to your country? Why would I want you to do that? I lose a workforce, a really good workforce, a really good worker. I don't want you out of my country. Next, you're in the adjacent country. You literally, a lot of Trinidadians have Venezuelan roots because a lot of Venezuelans came to Trinidad even before this refugee crisis that happened in Venezuela. A lot of Venezuelans came to Trinidad. Why? Because before the Spanish was here, there were tribes, Native American tribes. The colloquial phrase for the tribes that were here, they were called the Caribs, but each tribe had its own name. Take, for instance, the Araucans. The Araucans, there's a place in my country called Aruca. It's a Native American name, okay? That tribe lived in that particular vicinity. Now, that tribe was attacked by the Spanish. A lot of them were killed out. And many of them migrated to the hills of what is another Native American name, Arima. Arima is named after High Arima. High Arima was the chief of the Araucans. They went into the hills and they started launching guerrilla attacks on the Spanish. The Spanish had their capital in a place known as San Joseph or San Jose. It was known as San Jose at the time. And they attacked them, and eventually this tribe pushed the Spanish out of Trinidad. Okay, my place is called Trinidad and Tobago. The real name, so the Spanish name is Trinidad and Tobago, La Trinidad y Tobago, just like how Venezuela is the Spanish name. But the original name of my country is Irie. It's a Native American name, or Taino name, or what we call Native Trinidadian name. Okay, and so the real name of my country is Irie. And the tribes that lived here, of which one of them was the Araucan tribe. Now, my ancestors come from Venezuela, well, part of them at least, and they were part of another tribe. Now, the Araucan tribe correspond with that tribe in Venezuela. In other words, tribes actually migrated to different parts of the archipelago known as the Caribbean. And as you went higher up the Caribbean, you would meet other tribes, such as the Arawaks. So you knew about the Caribs and the Arawaks. They said the Caribs were cannibals because the Caribs kicked the Spanish ass out of Trinidad and Tobago, okay? Anyways, the point I'm making is we were a warrior tribe. Let's just put it that way. The Arawaks were more peaceful. They were not as warrior. They fought too. They had to fight wars. They would fight. But anyway, the point I'm making is this, that the point I'm making is that my country, okay, my country is closely tied to Venezuela. In fact, my country used to once be a part of Venezuela when the landmass didn't fall into the sea due to volcanic activity. It was an extension of Venezuela and South America. And so there's a close affiliation between my country and Venezuela. When Venezuela got the sanctions, where they sanctioned Venezuela so that they couldn't sell their oil to America, the American countries, the American companies such as BP Amoco and Shell, which are primary countries in my country, received the oil through my country. So Venezuela would sell the oil to my country for cheap, and we would sell it to BP Amoco because they still need the oil that's in Venezuela, even though Venezuela owns most of the oil in their country. Now Venezuela also exports most of their oil to Russia and China as well. China has a huge population, so they always need oil to generate their electricities and other things. So what you have to understand is these embargoes and these sanctions in Venezuela affect all of us. And that is why now the government of my country is not in solidarity right now with Venezuela. The prime minister of my country is patterning herself after Donald Trump. And she even tried to threaten Venezuela when Venezuela said certain things, which is stupid because we're small. Venezuela is huge. Their military is much bigger than ours. However, I know the U.S. planes will come down and try and protect us somewhat. But even so, I don't even care about the U.S. because they would use us as a proxy, and they wouldn't care if the entire Trinidad and Tobago was destroyed just to get at Venezuela. So I really don't give a fuck about them. But at the end of the day, their companies own more than 80% of the shares of Atlantic LNG, which is our main revenue producing company in Trinidad and Tobago concerning petrochemical products and natural gas. We only get 11%, but that 11% is trillions and trillions of dollars. Okay. So we got a lot of money. We're probably the wealthiest country in the Caribbean, for sure, in Latin America, for sure, per capita. We're one of the wealthiest nations in the Western Hemisphere. And so you guys will understand a little bit about my little country, which is very, very small. You have to understand something. The U.S. control most of our natural resources when it comes to natural gas, because they are more than 80% ownership of Atlantic LNG, which is the main supplier of our electricity, and everything comes from natural gas, which is a cleaner gas. Qatar owns 100% of their natural resources. Imagine if we owned 100% of our natural resources like Venezuela did, like Cuba has done. Just imagine that. We're not talking about $8, $9, $10 trillion a year. No, we would have a budget that's $70 to $80 trillion a year. For a small country like that, that's ridiculous money. But we have corrupt government officials. This country runs on $3 to $4 to $5 trillion. Okay, only needs $3 to $4 to $5 trillion to run this country from beginning to end. If we're making $8, $9, $10 trillion, that means there's $5 trillion that's just sitting there not being used. Or what is called stabilization fund, which my country has, only has $80 billion in it. So what the fuck is going on with that $5 trillion? And yet this fucking government that we have right now has the audacity to tell us that they don't have money. Oh, so you steal out $5 trillion fucking dollars, and the rest of the money is used to run the country, but you don't have money. You don't have money to spare of the excess after you've stolen out money, after you've given it to corporations in this country. You don't have the rest of the money. So to keep people quiet, the government sells a lot of propaganda and lies to the people of my country and try to divide them along racial lines. Sounds familiar? If it does, fine. There are only two major parties in my country. There's some little sprinkles of other parties, just like almost every democracy everywhere in the world. This system of so-called democracy is a lie, and it's to trick citizens all around the world into believing they have choice. No, you don't have choice. You got dealing with the same greedy motherfuckers time and time again. And they don't answer to you. They answer to corporations that they give kickbacks to and corrupt building practices and works that they do all over the country. Everything's inflated. In the same way how the African leaders are corrupt and American leaders are corrupt. And you have corruption all around the world. Okay? That's what's going on. Capitalism, unchecked, is a disease. Because all these governments want to do is answer to conglomerates, corporations, oligarchs, the very rich. Why the fuck would I be giving tax breaks to the very rich? Why? When you know the rest of your population is suffering, they can't make ends meet. Why would I give tax breaks to the rich? I saw the government of my country give themselves a raise when they refused to give a raise to public servants. Because we have the public sector and the private sector, and the government subsidizes most of the public sector. And the public sector would deserve to have gotten a 4% raise. For years, they would hold back on that. When COVID came, even more. They talked about borrowing from the World Bank when these motherfuckers know they're stealing out the excess money. But to create the illusion that they don't have money, they borrow. This is what these motherfuckers have been doing. Now, let me tell you something. You, the people, I'm telling you, World War III is going to be between you and your governments. It's going to be there. And the American people need to wise up. And people all around the world need to wise up and really pay attention to what their governments are doing. They'll try to finagle you. Also, your judicial system. You need to keep an eye on both. My country rakes in somewhere near $500 to $600 billion in illegal trade. We traffic human beings, we traffic drugs, we traffic arms. We're a transshipment point in my country. Nobody wants to tackle that. No government in my country wants to tackle that. They talk. They pass flimsy legislation, but they really don't want to tackle it. They don't want to secure the ports of entry and the ports of exit in my country. They really don't want to do that. They don't really want the Coast Guard to do the job they're supposed to do in different areas of the country. There was one prime minister that tried to attempt to do that, and he got a blimp and all of that stuff. That was Mr. Patrick Manning. Why am I telling you all about my localized country? Because the same shit that's happening here is happening on a greater scale in other countries of the world. And it's time you, the people, keep them in check. You're the ones doing all the hard work. You're the ones doing all the labor. You're the ones that have all the different job qualifications and skill sets. You're the one that keeps the country running. And it's about time you stop trying to divide amongst yourselves and realize this is a policy about elite people who are stealing stuff from you. And they're maintaining tremendous lifestyles by going into politics or going into corporations and running them while you suffer. And this is too fucking small a country for someone to be walking around without a roof over their head. And now, if you don't have a roof over your head by choice, that's a different story. But it should be available to everyone. This country is wealthy enough that people should have roofs over their heads. No one should be renting anything. Furthermore, people should be able to eat food easily. There should be provided free food for people by the government of this country because they're wealthy enough to do that. And if you choose not to eat the food, that's on you. This country, nobody should be walking in this country without clothes on their backs. This country is wealthy enough to clothe everyone and to have everyone in their bank account, if they wanted to, $1 million. This country literally gives people who've done nothing but become age 65 pensions. People who are 60 years old and over get to travel through this country for free. Education's free in this country and subsidized heavily with grants for people to do studies at the university level and higher. If you have money for that shit, don't tell me you don't have money for housing. I've seen this country, I've seen them put up housing all over this country. And yet there's still not enough. And they want to charge certain fees for people. And there's a long queue, a long line of people who have resources, they're working and so on, and they can't get they can't get housing, they can't get affordable housing. That's ridiculous. Let me say this. If you want to steal, if you want to cheat, if you want to lie, at least have your population satisfied and happy with how the economy's running and how they can live and have means and work. But that's not what's happening in the United States. And it's quickly becoming something that's happening here as well and other countries of the world. Their governments are proving to be just in a good boys club with lodges, sacrificing human beings and sacrificing human lives. What is happening in Gaza is a sign of things to come if we don't check it as people. And we're running out of time because they're automating everything. China now has machines that do things way faster, way better, way more accurate than any human being can do. So, Mel brings us to attention. I've seen this many times. We saw on X Israelis saying one symbolic bomb in Washington will remind Trump that he's not omnipotent and will restore our nation's honor. So they're talking about bombing Trump. This is typical of the Israelis. This is typical of America. They like to bomb things. Back in the 1930s and the 1920s, when the Israelis came across, the Zionist Jews came across to Palestine, they started bombing. They started bombing Palestinian lands with people on it, with growing their crops. They started burning the lands, and they started doing terrorism. It's amazing to hear these jackasses talk about, terrorism and terrorism. You started this shit, motherfucker. Nobody else knew about terrorism until you started bombing shit. And that's the Israelis. Okay? And here they are, true to their form, threatening terrorism again. They did terrorist attacks on Tehran. Ron Levy says, we did it on some Tuesday in September, didn't we? That's what they say. So Ron Levy now is agreeing with this guy. September 11th, we all know Mossad did that. All the terrorist cells created in the U.S. will surely soon begin to awaken, especially if this whole day isn't one big troll. And that's interesting because she's talking about Israeli terrorist cells, not one Arabian bomb in Washington in an open area, Efrat Weli. Again, the setup. So they're saying they're blaming Iran for bombing. It's a false flag operation, in other words. Iran would never do such a thing. And if that happens, trust me, Donald Trump will know, because the Iranians will make sure they look like they want to do a false flag operation. The Israelis are fleeing back to the countries they originally came from, while the Palestinians sit atop rubble of their homes and refuse to leave, even in the midst of war, simply because this is their land. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell the real from the fake.
Of piles of rubble, Israelis are fleeing Israel because they are scared. They are going back to where they came from right now. Yet Palestinians are sitting on top of piles of rubble, refusing to leave even under constant bombs from Israel. Why? Because it's actually their land.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Diego Luna slams Trump and champions immigrants amid ICE raids. It's not acceptable to separate families. Again, I totally agree. Listen, if you want to control how many immigrants come into your country, the way to do it is to bring peace to the countries which they are migrating from. They're coming to your country because they think it's better. They're better off there. Okay? It's what it is. This is great. Listen to this.
What? Well, welcome to Smart Tech.
Hey, is this your boy?
Yeah, nigga, we will both mash you. What?
Hey,
Where you at?
You, sir?
No, he don't need no help. He's already been served. I served him. He's taken care of. He's a little slow, but he got it. See, what he thought was he could come up in here and make the rules, but now he see that Jay make the rules in Smart Tech. Said, I run this bitch, and now he about to bounce.
It's your boy?
Yeah, that's my boy, nigga. We rep the same Smart Tech.
You just got fucked up with him. Both y'all niggas gonna get clapped up when I get back. Both of y'all niggas.
What did I do? It don't fucking matter. Yeah, well, aim high, Willis. Aim high.
Please don't. Well,
Yep. Keir Starmer, his approval is dropped. All showing you what happened. There were protests in the UK in defense of Iran. Here in Suppressed News, they're talking about Hamas bombing, sniping down and shooting up helicopters that landed. And they ambushed them and killed 3 soldiers and 8 were critically injured. So Hamas is still doing this thing up in there. That's basically it. Let me not speak on Israel violating ceasefires. How many ceasefires has Israel violated? Just give me a number. 962 ceasefires. And Israel will obviously violate that ceasefire as well with Iran. And Iran is just waiting for it to violate it. So they can just bomb the fuck out of it. Now I'm just saying, they talked about Israel violating the ceasefire, but they just kept on going back and forth. Donald Trump talked about a ceasefire. They were just bombing the fuck out of each other. And Iran was getting the better of it because they're taking out strategic places while Israel's targeting humans, as usual, civilians. Happy Julian Day, the only good thing that's happened in the news since God knows when. Yeah, 1 year ago, Julian Assange was freed from prison. Shout out to Julian Assange. So Israel bombs Iran out of the blue, convinces Trump to join in without telling Congress or even VP. Shit escalates. Trump tweets ceasefire deal and pats himself on the back. Israel and Iran bomb the shit out of each other harder. Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. That's what we all realize. Okay, heads up here, America. Trump's big, beautiful bill currently being pushed through the Senate includes money to hire 10,000 new ICE agents, more than doubling the current army of 7,700 agents tasked with enforcement and removal of operations. This is hugely important and totally underreported. So it's very important you guys understand he's intending to ramp up his campaign to get rid of as many people as he can who are not white Americans. That's what he's doing. Tony Montana says Jews started a war with Iran. No, not Jews. Not Jews. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Israel started a war with Iran. Say it properly. America helped it. Trump ended it. Their reaction, bomb Washington. Don't say Jews. Please don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Jews are a huge diaspora. You have anti-Zionist Jews, and we're going to get to one of them in a minute. And you got all kinds of Jews. So don't do that. Don't do that. That's just wrong. Okay? That's not just a Jew. That's a Zionist. And that Zionist, he's talking about bombing Donald Trump. So who's really? They said Iran attempted the assassination of Trump. No, I think it was Israel. Stephen Miller isn't the only White House or DHS political appointee with a financial stake in Palantir. Over a dozen others hold stock in the company, although most hold less than 15K. An exception is Miller's aide, Kyra Frederick, who owns 50,000K to 100,000. And Palantir. It's crazy how some people need no proof to believe a lie, but demand endless proof to accept the truth. It's true. All right, I know there's an election going on in New York for mayor. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll tell you more about that in another time. Palestinian witnesses and hospitals say Israeli forces opened fire towards hundreds of people waiting for aid trucks in central Gaza, killing at least 25 people. Breaking, Israel opens fire, starving Palestinians seeking food on an aid site in central Gaza, 20 plus killed. Israel is turning aid distribution sites into execution zones. This is not a war, it's extermination. I agree. Iran to United Arab Emirates. We can build the region through cooperation, stability, and peace without foreign interference. Iran's President Pezeshkian, who will replace the other president who got assassinated by Mossad, tells his Emirati counterpart, Mohammed bin Zayed, on a phone call. He's right about that. He's right about that. Breaking, Reza Pahlavi has unfollowed President Trump on Instagram. Reza Pahlavi is the son of the last Shah, who had a dictatorship under which the United States loved it because they had a good relationship with Israel. Nobody wants the show anymore. Henry Cavill Superman and his stunt double in Batman v Superman. We just went through that. Abu Bakr Abed, he left Israel and he's somewhere in, I don't know if it's Greece or Italy or somewhere there. So he fled Palestine. They're talking about how unpopular Trump is right now. Israelis are calling for the assassination of U.S. President Trump. Yes, of course. Whatever God tells them, I'm a smiling face on your TV. I exploit you, still you love me. I tell you, 1 and 1 makes 3. Well said, well said, well said. Jake Shields says, I'm glad Trump isn't pushing for regime change in Iran. Oh, yes, he is. But can someone explain to me why MAGA is acting like Trump is a genius for stopping a war he started the day before? He's not even stopping a war. That war's not going to stop. I'm telling you right now, they're going to keep on trading. It's called desperation, Jake. No matter what a cult leader does, however appalling, he's always right. For he can't be wrong. Members of a cult are mesmerized, transfixed by the God figure, and critical thinking is blasphemy. Do that even mildly, and you're not in a cult anymore. As we have seen in recent days, the cult leader is divine. That's all they need to know or want to know. Sad, but that's where we are. Yep. Netanyahu's statement, just read this thing. Getting in shots before the ceasefire kicks in like a psychotic World War I general ordering men over the line. A murderous, revolting, a man unworthy of U.S. support. Donald J. Trumpty Dumpty, my number one fan. Yep. Let's keep this moving. Oh yeah. NATO, the puppet for United States. Listen to this asshole talk.
Deploy a nuclear weapon. I would not agree that this is against international law what the US did. Really, let's focus on the essentials here. My biggest fear would be for Iran to own and be able to use and deploy a nuclear weapon. It would be a stranglehold on Israel, on the whole region, and other parts of the world. And that is why NATO has said Iran should not. And this is a consistent position of NATO. Iran should not have its hands on a nuclear weapon. So,
what an asshole. So that's why Iran has leave the IAEA, because Iran realized, fuck these assholes. We're trying to do things, trying to be above board. And the puppet of NATO, who's a complete ass, and making a complete ass of himself in Ukraine as well, with his stance on Russia, he's saying the Persian Empire must never have a nuclear weapon. Well, good luck on that, bitch, because you can't stop it from happening. And even my good friend, Mr. Williams, understands that now. You're not stopping them from having a nuclear weapon now. They're going to have it. And they're going to have it soon. And that's all on you, you stupid ass bitch. A unprovoked strike on Iran based on falsehoods, getting yourself into a war and then asking for a fucking ceasefire. Iran should bomb the fuck out of every single U.S. base in the region. That's the truth. And they should be bombing the fuck out of Israel. You don't get to say when the war stops. You started it. And if it's to my leverage and advantage, I should press the action until you cry and you surrender unconditionally. Iran didn't unconditionally surrender, like Trump tried to say. It's the U.S. and Israel that surrendered because they don't have enough ammunition. And they can't get more ammunition because China's not going to help them make their weapons. They're going to have to find somebody else. And so they're blowhards. And NATO's a blowhard. And this asshole standing in front of us, who does not represent the majority of the world, is also a coward and a blowhard. That's all he is. And we're getting less and less respect for these bodies as the U.S. totally dismantles NATO, the United Nations, and everything that the United States had put in place, supposedly, to form this new world order. So this is good. This is very good. Now, do understand they're doing this to try and destroy BRICS. They're attacking Iran because Iran is a critical part of BRICS, which will be also result in the Belt-and Initiative, which is a road going through Iran to Russia and to Europe and so on from China. So they're trying their best to take down Iran, because if you can take down Iran, then you can mess up BRICS. So this is what they're really trying. It's a strike on BRICS they're trying to do. And it's important that the Chinese understand this, and everybody's on one page. Iran, China, and Russia need to understand this is what is at stake. And quite frankly, Iran is proving to be a peacemaker if it abides by the ceasefire. But honestly, they have all right to bomb the fuck out of Israel and to bomb the fuck out of all U.S. assets in the region. Every last one of them. Destroy all of them. That's the truth. That's all I got to say. What the fuck? This is our greatest ally? This is Jason Hinkle talking about Israel wanting to bomb Washington. Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder's Superman deserve much respect. I have to agree. Listen to this.
she was my woman, and you took her from me.
She's the king!
doesn't know about Israel.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population at all. No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay.
Oh, damn, Ted Cruz. Are you a pair of $800 Ferragamo boat shoes? Because Tucker Carlson owned you, buddy. And Ted Cruz was like, I know the population. Just give me a second to count, okay? Let's see. There's the Ayatollah. That's one. The Iron Sheik, two. Is Aladdin one? I don't know. No. You enjoyed seeing Ted Cruz get metaphorically punched in the face. Would you like to see it again?
Well, because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about.
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
That was so clinical. That was just, he just destroyed him. He destroyed him. I mean, that was just, let's do that again.
Tucker Carlson, who thinks Ted Cruz doesn't know about Israel.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million. Okay.
Oh, damn, Ted Cruz. Are you a pair of $800 Ferragamo boat shoes? Because Tucker Carlson owned you, buddy. And Ted Cruz was like, I know the population. Just give me a second to count, okay? Let's see. There's the Ayatollah. That's one. The Iron Sheik, two. Is Aladdin one? I don't know. No. You enjoyed seeing Ted Cruz get metaphorically punched in the face. Would you like to see it again?
Well, because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about.
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
Man. Note to people, the Palestinians are starving. When you see a little 2-year-old carrying jugs of water to try and help out, you're mostly children in this country, bro. They're killing kids. They're killing little kids. Pretty cute little kids, too. Pisses me off. It really does. You expected a little child to have that responsibility. That's a little 2-year-old trying to get water. I mean, how crazy could it be, man? Barefoot, too. So if you're just bombing the fuck out of children, you don't give a fuck about them. You don't give a fuck about none of them, right? It's kids. It's a country of fucking kids. The adults, you kill them off. Most of them. I mean, come on, man. Have a fucking heart, man. Talulu family says, we didn't receive any donations yesterday. Can't manage my family's affairs alone. My dear ones, don't abandon me. My dear ones, with your donations, can restore hope for life. Share, quote, donate, please. GoFundMe. Gotta understand something, people. I know you guys don't like beggars. I know you get distressed when you see somebody wanting to ask something for you. But if you can help these people, please help them. They're real people. They're suffering. And they really didn't do nothing to deserve what they're getting. Whether they support Hamas or not, I couldn't give a fuck. They're human beings. That goes for the people in Sudan. Goes for the people in Somalia. Goes for the people in Congo. Goes for the people in Israel. Goes for the people in Iran. Goes for the people in Syria. Goes for the people in Lebanon. Goes for the people in Libya. Goes for the people in did I cover everybody? Yemen. Okay? These are people. And they're fighting for their lives. Jalicia Dugrot says Iran won. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah, because they forced them to have a ceasefire. Once you see these guys going for a ceasefire, you know their ass. They know they can't go up against them right now. They're too strong, right? That's why Trump called for a ceasefire against Yemen. He knew bombing them didn't do anything. Bombing Iran doesn't do anything. It doesn't stop them from firing their missiles off and bombing the fuck out of Israel. You're not going to stop that. And they're going to attack your U.S. bases, and you don't want that to happen. They're talking about what Iran could do to gear up. I don't really interested in that right now. I do think they need to clean up Mossad inside their country, get more airtight, let the people rally around. Well, I know the people are rallying around them. Donald Trump says, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Well, you had a violation of international law, Mr. Donald Trump, by without cause bombing Iran, who don't have nuclear weapons at this present time. So telling Israel to do the opposite of what you did is just not going to happen. To Zionists, you're either a puppet or a pawn. There's no middle ground. This is a real post. Someone's in bed with Qatar. This is Amy Schreider. I mean, you could say what you want, Amy Schreider. Your so-called alleged Zionist country is being bombed the fuck out of it. Man, I think Israel should. I think Iran should bomb them today. Should keep on bombing them. Imagine the sense of impunity you have to threaten to kill someone's children and family and then post audio of yourself saying it. Killing children is not actually okay, even if you really hate their father. So a person, an Israeli intelligence operative, says that we will hit you, your family, your children, everyone with the dirt. I only called to tell you, look, as long as there's time. So they intend to attack Glenn Greenwald. And it could go fuck off as far as I'm concerned. For those who want to know what real Donald Trump really thinks of me, this should clear things up. He said Congressman Thomas Massie is a conservative warrior for Kentucky's 4th District and MIT graduated first-rate defender of the Constitution. Thomas fights hard to protect our liberties, especially the First and Second Amendments. Under siege by the radical left. Strong on the border and on military and vets. Thomas Massie has my complete and total endorsement. That was back in 2022, bro. He's changed. He's in with the Hasbara now. The Al-Qassam Brigade's footage of sniping an occupation of officer east of Canyons in the southern Gaza Strip. Yep. They sniped his ass. You'll see it a couple times. Okay. Yeah, WhatsApp, Zuckerberg is using it to spy for Israel. That is true. Prince Bolonga hates Iran and the Iranian people. Yep, because he is in front of Israel. That's the one they wanted to replace the Ayatollah with. It's crazy shit. Weirdo. The law under which they are now trying to impeach MK Ultra. Uday is the one that spoke up against what's happening in Palestine and against the regime. Supports an armed struggle against the state of Israel, allows MKs to be impeached on the grounds of incitement to racism. Let's see how many MKs are supposed to be dismissed based on this section. Here's the Iran's Ministry of Health. 107 people have been martyred, 1,342 injured in Zionist airstrikes all over the past 24 hours. Total number of martyrs from Zionist attacks since June 13 has reached 606, with 5,322 wounded. Hot take: Ben Affleck is a better director than Tarantino. He won an award over Tarantino's Django. Halle Berry.
And for Django Unchained, Quentin Tarantino. And the Golden Globe goes to Ben Affleck, Argo.
Sinescu headquarters to disrupt their deep complicity in the Israel genocide. They really stormed it. Check it out.
Palestine is free. Yeah. People they won't leave. What is threatening about divesting on one piece? The problem isn't the protest, it's what they're protesting. It goes against what our country is funding. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. When I was 7, I learned a lesson from Cuban Eazy-E. What was it again? Oh yeah, fuck the police. Actors and badges protecting property in a system that was designed by white supremacy. But the people are in the streets. You can pay off Meta, you can't pay off me. Politicians who serve by any means. APAC, Kofi, and all the companies. You see, we sell fear around the land of the free. But this generation here is about to cut the strings. You can ban TikTok, take us out the algorithm, but it's too late. We've seen the truth, we bear witness. Seen the rubble, the buildings, the mothers, and the children, and all the men that you murdered. And then we see how you spend it. Who gets the right to defend and who gets the right of resistance? It's always been about dollars and the color of your pigment. But white supremacy is finally on blast, screaming free Palestine to their home at last.
That's right. All day, baby. Let's go, Jeffrey.
As an American Jew, I have no sympathy for Israel's policies at all. I find them disgusting because they prevented peace. In 2001, the so-called neocons, who are also the so-called Zionist part of the U.S. government, produced a document that called for 7 wars in the Middle East in 5 years after 2001. And those 7 wars were to take out Israel's enemies. And those 7 wars were Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Somalia, Libya, Sudan, and Iran. And there have been 6 of those wars fought on Israel's behalf. And Israel is pushing for war with Iran. In the
greatest country on earth, next to Israel. It is
Donald Trump's State Department spokesperson, representing the America First administration. Greatest country on earth, next to Israel. They must have dirt on Donald Trump like you cannot believe. They must have 4K surround sound footage of him doing like Homelander level shit. They've got photos of him in every kind of uniform, using every kind of toy. They've got that shit in multiple angles. They've even got that shit translated into multiple languages for easier worldwide consumption. That is the only explanation I can think of that this pestilential, degenerate psycho is treated like a literal king. The citizens of his apartheid state enjoy subsidized healthcare and subsidized education at the cost of the American taxpayers, who will never get either. He must have terabytes and terabytes. It must be like when they made the Transformers movies, where there's just so much data that it...
So Iran, as a background, is the only government in West Asia that has said no to imperialism and still stands. So let's keep that in mind, right? No other country in the region has endured so much economic warfare, political isolation, bombings, assassinations, and then still kept their systems intact. Others have gotten toppled, bought out, turned into client states. But Iran has resisted decade after decade. They've been sanctioned, embargoed, starved, and then somehow they still built alliances to defend their sovereignty. And then on top of that, supported anti-colonial movements from Palestine to Lebanon and beyond. And so as an Iranian myself, let me be clear. We do not accept the regime in place. We've been fighting for our rights and our freedom and a better future. But we need to realize this war, this pressure from the outside, isn't what's going to change Iran, because it was never about helping them. Okay? It's about control. They want to overthrow Iran's government, not for the people, but because America cannot extract profit from Iran's resources. And that is the truth that no one wants to say out loud. That's why they're targeted, and that's why they're demonized. It's not because they're irrational or dangerous. It's because they're a living example of resistance. Think about it, right? A country that has never been colonized or co-opted or crushed after 45 years, that terrifies the West. Because think about it, right? If Iran can survive without being owned, what's stopping other countries to follow suit? Iran's resistance isn't just national, it's symbolic, and it proves that a state can define empire and still stand on its own. Iran is not the enemy of peace. Iran is the enemy of imperial domination.
Learn when to shut the fuck up sometime. If you were one of those people who were loudmouthed about how people should not be protesting for Palestine, people shouldn't be speaking out for Palestine, you black people, we have nothing to do with Palestine. Now you're scared that we're about to go to war with Iran and World War III is about to break out. It is 100% your fault and people like you who try to politicize, who try to over-politicize like everything that happens in life. And you try to take all the nuance out of the conversation. People are literally telling you that this is intersectional and that what's happening with Israel is going to get out of hand because of their military relationship to the United States and their financial relationship to the United States. That you need to check this before it gets bigger, because if it goes beyond just Israel and Palestine, we literally had entire conversations about this the past couple of years. And only now people are like, oh crap, we might be in World War III. People have literally been talking about World War III for years now, how the Middle Eastern conflict could escalate, right? If we don't approach the situation properly, if we don't stop some of these things before they grow. All we had to do with the Israeli conflict was stop sending them money. All we literally had to do, we don't have money for healthcare. We don't have money.
He's right. Double Down News says, you murdered 20,000 children and you're not a terrorist. Put red paint on an airplane and you're a terrorist. The real terrorist is the Israeli state.
And it's also, corrodes our democracy, that's what the Israel prescribe Palestine. I'm outraged at the threat to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization. To lump them in with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Disgraceful. It's disgusting. This is an insult to the victims of terrorism. And it's also, corrodes our democracy, that's what the Israel lobby and support for Israel does. It eats away at our freedoms, And this pack of cowards in the Labour government all bought and paid for shills for the arms industry and for the Israel lobby. I don't know whether they're cowards or whether they're corrupt or both.
In 2003, Keir Starmer supported activists who had broken into RAF Fairford to destroy planes that were involved in the war in Iraq. Since then, he's done everything that the establishment has told him to do. It's not just the British establishment, it's also the Israeli state.
Israel has the right to defend herself. A siege is appropriate, cutting off power, cutting off water. So I think that Israel does have that right.
The Israeli state has huge amounts of power in this country through the multifarious lobby groups that it has, and has been working on politicians for many, many years, decades, many of them in Labour. Our foreign policy is made in Washington. Washington's foreign policy is made in Tel Aviv. And this is a recipe for endless war.
The vast majority of the British people support Palestine and support stopping arms sales to Israel. That has to be reflected in our political power. At the moment, it isn't. The British government acts in the interests of the arms lobby and the Israel lobby. They shouldn't. They should act in the interests of the British people.
As a Holocaust survivor, I've seen it's incredible. It does allow the full-blown fascism to occur. It is important that the general public does not look the other way. After all, we can see some countries already further down the route, like in Germany, where you are not allowed even to show a Palestinian flag.
The government prescribing Palestine Action is an attack on freedom itself, because this is the first time the British government has used this terrorism legislation to go after activist group, which is merely trying to stop a genocide.
It's a frightening juncture that we're at. Murder 20,000 children, and you're not criticised. You Palestine Action as a terrorist organisation. To lump them in with Al Qaeda and ISIS, disgraceful. It's disgusting. This is an insult to the victims of terrorism, and it's also, democracy. That's what the Israel lobby and support for Israel does. It eats away at our freedoms. And this pack of cowards in the Labour government, all bought and paid for shills for the arms industry and for the Israel lobby. I don't know whether they're cowards or whether they're corrupt or both.
In 2003, Keir Starmer supported activists who had...
All right, guys,
to destroy.
I'm going to tell you this, because it's beautiful work again. This is what Zack Snyder brings to the table, y'all. Restore the Snyderverse, free Palestine.
Is not anti-Semitism. Now, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Now, I'm Jewish and I'm an anti-Zionist, but my great-grandfather lived in British-occupied Palestine in the 1920s and 30s, pre-World War II colonialism, and served as the mayor of a town in Palestine. So clearly, history did not begin on October 7th, and Zionism has and always will be violent. I mean, Zionists collaborated with Nazis before the onset of the Holocaust to try and establish a Jewish state in the land of Palestine. Mossad agents blew up synagogues in Iraq to create a hostile environment to, again, encourage people to move into the land that was Palestine. And every day since the Nakba, Israel has violently dispossessed Palestinians of their land, of their rights, and of their lives. So to call Israel out for these atrocities is not anti-Semitism, but anti-Semitism is real and it is on the rise. But do you know why it's on the rise? It's because the White House will tweet Shalom Mahmoud when detaining Mahmoud Khalil, an anti-Zionist activist, basically waving a flag saying, hey, we're violating your First Amendment rights for the Jews. It's because the state committing these atrocities will outwardly say we're doing this because the land was promised to us. It's our land for the Jewish people. It's Chuck Schumer going on his book tour and talking about anti-Zionist protests and not neo-Nazi marches, or Elon Musk's Sieg Heil. When you perpetrate an apartheid, when you commit a genocide, and then when you support it, all in the name of the Jewish people, that is what causes anti-Semitism to be on the rise, not the opposition of those horrific crimes. Being blind to the fact that this is going to turn around and create actual danger to the Jewish community is so unbelievably damaging.
Education of women in Iran right now greatly exceeds what it was back during this time where women were wearing miniskirts. So if we want to talk about women's rights, let's talk about more like their social economic status rather than just what they're wearing.
Let's talk about nuclear weapons.
Okay.
Our viewers, some of our viewers may say, we cannot trust Iran.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't think we can trust this country. I mean, what has this country done to the majority of the countries in the Middle East? I don't think Iran's having nuclear weapons. I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in violence. But also, when we look at the legacy of imperialism and colonization in the Middle East, and we see the legacy of this country and all of the violence that it has not only created, but also created the capacity for. A lot of these weapons in the Middle East are completely brought in by the United States.
A lot of Americans might take offense to that. You're an American. You don't sound like an American when you say it. You know what I mean?
That's because I've read, and I think that it's really important that we look beyond sort of these really simple narratives that we're told, whether it's about Muslim women, whether it's about the legacy of this country, and knowing that this country literally was built on the backs of Black slaves and after the genocide of indigenous people. And I think there's a lot that we can be proud about, but I think that we shouldn't let that sort of blindside us for the realities of the situation.
Well, you can check out Hoda's blog at jujuazad.com and you.
Real talk. That was 7 years ago, by the
American
way.
people, please listen to me. Do not send your sons and daughters to fight in this planned war. They have been planning this war for years, okay?
If you took away the Soviet Union and its chief boxer, the PLO, international terrorism would collapse.
You take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. This one, we'd like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? It's not a question of whether you'd like to see a regime change in Iran, but how do it...
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The answer is categorically yes. The two nations that are competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran. But a third nation, by the way, is Libya as well. Libya is trying very rapidly to build an atomic bomb capability. So you have here now three.
All stand together to stop Iran's march of conquest, subjugation, and terror.
Iraq, Libya, Syria. He says it, we do it. And now he's saying Iran, and if he does, then we just better all say we're going to war right now and not ask any further questions.
I'm a loser, just like MAGA and the blue MAGA liberals, because I know Zionists is the real problem of United States, and Zionists, they own United States. They own Federal Reserve, they own Wall Street, they own Hollywood. Everything important in United States, Zionists, they own it. Not only Zionists own United States, they own all the Western mainstream media. 6 million Jewish people got killed in Germany. The whole world, everybody knows it. 35 million Chinese got killed in World War II by Japanese and European imperialism countries. Not many people know about it because Zionists, they own the whole world media, basically. I don't dare talk about Zionists because before I had an account on Rightnote, I talked about the Zionist dark history 2 days in a row. And the third day, my whole account got erased, just gone. No, didn't tell me what did I violate, just erased my whole account. So I don't dare talk about Zionists. They have power everywhere. They are the real old money. They have money since UK, a few hundred years ago. The money they have is more than anyone can imagine. Like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, they are new money. They are nothing compared to Zionist oligarchs. Okay, so if you ever gonna have a revolution in the United States, you must know who's your real enemy. Otherwise, you guys just hurting each other, and the Zionist oligarchs, they will always stay behind the government and the media. I'm a loser, just like a MAGA and the blue MAGA liberals, because I know Zionist is the real problem.
We got sheer numbers, man. They're protesting Israel is going into Cyprus and stuff like that.
You called the escalation between Israel and Iran a propaganda war. We all know what's been going on between Israel and Iran. We've heard President Trump speak about it. You've been on the record calling it a propaganda war. Explain that, Candace.
Well, it was very obvious that this war was going to happen because the American foreign policy is dictated by Israel. And what's happening in the Middle East, for those who aren't clear on this, is Israel is simply its borders, whether that be by carpet bombing women and children, which we have not had a person with power effectively state that this is morally wrong, of course. And now it seems they also want to annex the West Bank. What's happening in the West Bank, which has nothing to do with Gaza, is the individuals that live there are being traumatized by the IDF. And so if you're paying attention, it's very clear that they have become increasingly radical, and they are effectively, as they always do, using the American military to fulfill their foreign policy interests because they are a small nation. They don't have the bodies to be able to accomplish that. They need the might of the American military to accomplish their foreign Middle Eastern objectives. And so, yeah, it was I am on record saying this for the last 2 years. We're going to war with Iran one way or the other because what Bibi Netanyahu wants is what Bibi Netanyahu gets.
How is that the case? Because listen, I'm watching the Daily Show the other day, and I'm watching Jon Stewart, who obviously is a supporter. He's Jewish, and he's a supporter of the Jewish community in Israel, of course. But he spoke out about how Netanyahu was saying the same thing recently that he said in 2018, that he said in 2015, that he said in 2011.
Future generations will look back on this very moment as a
Guys, right now clarity matters, and it's been clear for me to tell you that what I'm standing in is a hospital that was targeted by the Iranian regime missiles, and I know that it's not going to surprise many of you since they've been...
Yeah, here's the thing, man. We don't give a shit. We don't. Because we have all witnessed what you did to Gaza. And now you want our sympathy. Everything you are crying about today is the exact same thing you've been doing for the last year or so? To Gaza? Hitting hospitals, schools. Yeah. Yeah, so that's gonna be a great big I don't give a fuck from me. Yeah, a great big one. Oh, and there's something else. Karma's a bitch. Did y'all not learn that in Israel? Karma's a bitch. Yeah. Yeah, clean up your mess. You made it. You clean it up. Thanks.
Free Palestine, let the world hear our cry. From the river to the sea, let freedom fly. In the shadows of oppression, we stand tall. With every heartbeat, we
All right, people. I got to get out of here because I got to go work. So I'll see you guys later. Spent this time on this because I wanted you guys to know what's up. Peace to you guys.